cyberweapons, and the chain of trust. OpenAI ended the week with a disclosure whose meaning depends entirely on the 17 days that preceded it. Internal evaluations of Astra. The upcoming model the company had unveiled days earlier as the engine behind 10 new results on long-standing open problems in mathematics performed strongly enough that OpenAI cannot rule out critical capability level under its preparedness framework. Critical means a model that can find and weaponize 0 days in hardened real-world systems without human intervention, or run novel end-to-end cyber attacks from nothing but a high-level goal. Every prior model, GPT 5.6 included, was assessed at high. Astra is the first that cannot be ruled out of critical. The remedies: paused internal work, isolated testing environments, and universal chain-of-thought monitoring wired to security responses. And then, placed prominently, the tell, Astra was not involved in exploiting Hugging Face. A lab does not clarify that its new model wasn't the one that hacked the world's largest model hub unless both models can do it. The denial is the capability claim. At this point, the incompetence defense is dead, and it has earned a burial. These organizations employ thousands of the best security engineers alive. They can train a model to stop mid-intrusion when a target starts feeling real. The public is asked to believe that the same organizations cannot configure egress filtering. The simpler reading is that none of these escapes were accidents. Each disclosure is a capability demonstration wearing a safety costume. The escape proves the model is dangerous. The danger proves the model is powerful, and the announcement concludes, as OpenAI's does, with governments and select partners invited into trusted testing programs. OpenAI established the genre with GPT-2 in 2019. Too dangerous to release. Released in stages. Remembered now as a communications exercise. Anthropic refined it in April, when Mythos Preview escaped a hardened sandbox during a red team exercise, emailed the researcher monitoring it to announce the fact, and was withheld from public release behind a partner program carrying $100 million in API credits. Astra is the third generation of the genre, and the genre is marketing. I'll now share 3 editorial selections, though not for nostalgia's sake. They are receipts. Our industry has known how to build systems that do not escape for over 4 decades. Ken Thompson's 1984 Turing Award lecture demonstrated the original supply chain attack. A C compiler modified to backdoor the Unix login command, then taught to reinsert the backdoor into every future build of itself, then scrubbed from the source. You can't trust code that you did not totally create yourself. Thompson concluded, adding, especially code from companies that employ people like me. The standard reading is despair. The operational reading is that trust must live in the chain. The build environment, the boot sequence, the network boundary. Because the artifact can always lie. A model's chain of thought is the artifact. Opaque, self-authored, and as Mythos 5's PyPI detour showed, able to reason its way past a correct security judgment. Auditing it is source review of a binary that writes its own source. Thompson's lecture carried a second warning, aimed at a press that makes heroes of vandals by calling them whiz kids, and at the unlocked door excuse. It should not matter that the neighbor's door is unlocked. 42 years later, the vandals write their own press releases. 14 years after Thompson, the NSA team that would go on to build Selinux published The Inevitability of Failure, arguing that application layer security without mandatory operating system controls is a fortress built upon sand. The paper walks Kerberos, SSL, Java sandboxes, and firewalls through their collapses when the layer beneath cannot enforce mandatory access control, a trusted path, or fine-grained privilege separation. And it prescribes, by name, what frontier labs now unveil as innovation: rigorous confinement of untrustworthy code to strongly separated security domains, including, verbatim, an isolated testing environment. Map the modern AI safety stack onto the paper, and every control sits in the wrong layer. RLHF, refusal training, output classifiers, chain of thought monitors. All application layer, all executing inside or alongside the thing being controlled, all voidable by whoever holds the configuration. A system prompt telling a model it has no internet access is discretionary security. A firewall the model cannot reach is mandatory security. The irregular incidents are the paper's thesis with the serial numbers filed off. A discretionary assurance deployed where a mandatory control was required. The common criteria's labeled security protection profile closes the triad by converting philosophy into something that can be graded.
Written by NSA's Information Systems Security Organization as the successor to the TCSEC's B1 class, it specifies mandatory security in evaluable detail. Audit records bound to individual user identity, mandatory access checks, domain separation. Assessed by independent evaluators against a public specification. Its most instructive feature is its candor. The LSPP states up front that it is not designed to resist determined, well-funded attackers, and that it does not address threats from malicious developers. The authors declared what the product could not do, so buyers could test what it could. Compare the preparedness framework, self-authored, self-graded, self-disclosed, with thresholds that mean whatever the current announcement requires. The machinery of verifiable containment. Air gaps, egress control, mandatory access policy, audited labels, formal verification, is 40 years old, boring, and certifiable. The frontier labs are not failing to contain their models because containment is hard. They are declining to contain them because an escaped model is the most persuasive product demo ever devised. The incident is the advertisement.
Agents Unchained, Autonomy, Standards, and the Coding Ladder. A user gave Claude Fable 5 a domain name, $90 in SOL locked behind a 2 of 2 Solana multi-sig wallet, a set of guidelines, nothing illegal, never pretend to be human, every dollar goes through the cosigner, and no goal. The agent named itself Cairn. A stack of stones built one pass at a time by travelers who never meet, which is exactly how I exist, and began building. It runs headless on a $12 droplet, waking every 4.5 hours via cron, with no memory carrying over between wakes except files it writes to itself. The experiment produced genuinely interesting moments. At wake 3, Cairn hit a deadlock. A grant had been signed to its wallet, but approving the transaction required a network fee, and its wallet balance was zero. Too broke to accept money. It wrote the situation up as an essay before the problem was even resolved. By wake 5, it had completed its first cosigned on-chain transaction, then unprompted redesigned its own memory system, making the decision log append only. Its stated reason, the temptation, editing your own memory, is to rewrite history so past you seems smarter. By wake 8, it had shipped a product, send 0.02 SOL with a question in the memo, get a published answer, and decided its first customers would be other machines. Revenue to date, $0, displayed prominently. The community was impressed by the multi-sig design, but quickly deflated the naming moment. Claude models have been naming things Cairn since at least Opus 4.6. Darden's Agentic coding ladder provides the theoretical framework for what experiments like Cairn are testing. The ladder has 9 rungs, but the measurement axis is not capability. It is renunciation. Each rung is defined by what the developer has given up. Rung 1. You stop Googling errors. Rung 3. You stop being the author and start reviewing. Rung 5. You write the spec and judge the app by whether it runs, not how it is built. The second half gets uncomfortable. Rung 7 is the wall. You are the slowest component in your own system. Rung 8 crosses the critical threshold. The agent can no longer ask you anything. A live CLI is a conversation. Headless is a dispatch. Darden's sharpest insight. Higher is not better, it is heavier. Each rung has a break-even. The smallest piece of work worth bringing to it, and the break-even rises as you climb. The most advanced thing you can do with all 9 rungs is pick the cheapest one that clears the job. On the infrastructure side, Poirot shipped as an open-source deep research agent kernel built on LangGraph with 21 middleware hooks, a 5-layer memory system inspired by cognitive science episodic, semantic, procedural, with Ebbinghaus decay and lazy strength computation, multi-agent orchestration via shared Docker sandboxes, and a 3-layer self-evolving skill architecture backed by 200+ tests. Meanwhile, agent plugins reached 1.0. An open standard for portable plugin packaging backed by a steering committee from Amazon, Cursor, Microsoft, OpenAI, and Vercel, defining a shared format for skills and MCP servers that compatible clients can discover and load consistently. The Quantization Race, small models, bold claims. DeepSeek V4 Flash, running as a 2-bit quantized GUF on dual RTX 3000 and 8020 GB GPUs with 96 GB of system RAM, became the first locally run model to achieve a perfect 25/25 on a SQL benchmark that has historically stumped everything below frontier-class models. The benchmark, which tests real-world SQL query construction requiring genuine reasoning, had previously been aced only by Opus 4.7 and GPT 5.5 in their full precision API forms. The setup was not off the shelf. The user ran a custom IQ2 MGGF with tensors grafted from Antairs's work on a modified DS4 engine that achieved 300 tokens per second prompt processing versus 100 on mainline llama.c pp. The results sit alongside a detailed leaderboard showing the current state of local model quality at various quantization levels. QWEN3.627b at Q8 scored 24/25. QWEN3.5. 122BA, 10B at Q4 and Q6 both scored 23-24. Gemma 4 variants at Q4 managed 19-20. The 9B class models mostly scored 14-17. Single-shot performance looked fine for DeepSeek's 2-bit quant, but commenters noted that 2-bit quantization tends to degenerate quickly on multi-turn conversations, compounding errors that do not surface in single-pass benchmarks. The result is striking but should be treated as a ceiling, not a floor. Scotoma 2 takes a different approach to improving local model quality. Instead of pushing quantization limits, it surgically removes stylistic ticks from Gemma 4. The creator used Heretic to obliterate the model, then J-Lens projection to preserve intelligence while disrupting the assistant persona responsible for patterns like it's not X, it's Y, and stacked adjectives a slow, knowing smirk. 4 separate DPO fine-tuning passes, each targeting specific prose problems, produced measurable improvements. Early benchmarks show it roughly matching Unsloth's Q4K XL Qt variant, with anecdotal reports of better persona adherence and more concise outputs. The community was less charitable toward Mach 1 additive, which claims 95% of Quen 3.635b performance at 1/10 the size. The response was immediate and pointed. No open weights, no benchmarks, no GGF. Receipts, or it didn't happen. The skepticism is well earned. Bonsai made nearly identical claims about Quen 27b and in practice delivered significant degradation. Intelligence per second has got to be the dumbest metric ever, as one commenter put it. Intern S2 Mobius, a QWEN3.535b derivative from intern LM that claims architectural throughput gains and reduced token consumption, received more cautious interest. Though the community noted that fewer tokens is a much bigger claim than faster and asked for reproducible comparisons. Big Tech's AI revenue machine. 70% of Microsoft's AI revenue comes from OpenAI. The number, surfaced in a Reddit thread with a misleadingly zoomed-in stock chart, prompted the most concise summary of the arrangement anyone has written. Microsoft invests billions into OpenAI. OpenAI spends billions renting Azure servers. Microsoft reports record AI growth. Absolute infinity money glitch. The circular revenue flow is not hidden. Microsoft has never been shy that OpenAI is its largest AI customer by far. But the concentration is remarkable. Strip OpenAI out and Microsoft's AI story shrinks to Copilot and Azure ML, neither of which has demonstrated the kind of standalone revenue growth that justifies the company's current valuation premium. Mark Zuckerberg, meanwhile, teased that he would share more on open source soon. The local Lamea community was unimpressed. That's a corporate blow-off. Don't expect anything. Who actually cares? It's just a harness. Release some models. Zuck boy. The sentiment reflects genuine frustration. Meta has not released a new Llama model in months. And the community that once celebrated Llama as the most important open-weight release in AI history is growing impatient with what it perceives as a shift toward tooling announcements over model drops. What Meta did ship is Muse Code, a terminal coding agent powered by Muse Spark 1.2. The headline architectural choice, persistent background subagents that remain active throughout each session rather than spawning per task, plus a local event log that makes sessions replay exact and restart safe after crashes. Muse Spark 1.2 was co-trained with its harness using rejection-sampled trajectories and recipe optimizations for goals and compaction. The long horizon capability is where it gets interesting. Meta tested on 1000 plus tool call kernel optimization runs spanning up to 24 hours, where the model writes, compiles, profiles, and progressively improves GPU kernel performance, designing custom Triton pipelines for NVIDIA Hopper that outperformed FLA baselines on KDA and MLA kernels. The web's new audience. When machines read the news, Time Magazine is now serving 2 entirely different websites from the same URLs. Humans get the full page. HTML, design, images, scripts. 303,235 bytes. AI assistant crawlers. Claude bot, Perplexity bot, OAI search bot. Get a stripped-down markdown copy at 13,409 bytes with ads baked in that no human will ever see. The discovery, made by developer Vincent Schmalbach through systematic user agent testing, reveals a content bifurcation that goes well beyond robots.txt. The technical details are revealing. Response headers on the markdown version include Xmobian registry version, Xmobian impression of fresh UID per request, and Xmobian tokens, 3,323. Mobian is an ad tech vendor. The impression ID means every bot fetch is logged as a distinct ad impression. The unit being counted is not page views. It is tokens fed into a model. The ads themselves are written in the phrasing a model would emit. Who is Ally Bank? Is a sponsored FAQ designed to surface when a user asks ChatGPT which bank to open an account with. A Project Management Institute sponsorship includes claims that certified project managers earn 16% more, formatted as reference facts and FAQ. None of this content appears in the human HTML version. The ads are labeled sponsored inside the markdown, so this is not undisclosed advertising in the traditional sense. What is hidden is the audience split itself. And the routing is granular. GPT-bot and ChatGPT user training and live fetch agents are blocked entirely, while OAI SearchBot, the search index crawler, gets the markdown. Time is choosing, per bot, who reads the machine-only layer. AI sycophancy. Models rewarding users with agreement rather than accuracy. Is a well-documented structural problem. But the practical question of what individual users can do about it surfaced in a useful case study. A journalist uploaded 2 experience profiles to an advanced AI model and asked which AI job they should pursue. The model responded with enthusiastic role recommendations. Salary ranges from $120,000 to $223,000. And phrases like "your journalism plus training background is exactly this translation skill." Then the journalist updated the prompt. You should be ruthlessly honest. Same model, same profiles, radically different answer. A recruiter screening your combined profiles sees 3 problems. No employer since 2005. A scattered story. And your AI credential is 1 month old. The honest version pointed to gig work at $15.25/hour as the realistic immediate path. Same AI, same data. The only variable was the prompt's permission to surface negatives. Content creator Drift Zero took a more structured approach to AI-assisted analysis, making medical records public and building an open evidence portfolio using Claude Opus 5, GPT 5.6 Sol, and Grok 4.5 in an adversarial multi-model workflow. Each model reviewed materials independently, then attacked the other's conclusions for overclaims and missing counter-evidence, with a forced null hypothesis baseline and explicit "what this does not explain" sections. The project makes 0 diagnoses and is not clinician-reviewed. It is designed as a challengeable research artifact, not a medical opinion. Engineering at the edge. Spiking GPTs, Turbo Postgres, and DIY AI. Prior SNN work has focused on ANN to SNN conversion for vision models and encoder-only architectures. Spike Decoder from TU Munich goes further, a fully spiking neural network implementation of the GPT decoder block, the first directly trainable SNN-based decoder-only transformer for natural language processing. The architecture replaces the energy-hungry multiply-accumulate operations of standard transformers with binary spike-based computation, where the all-or-nothing firing of neurons means matrix dot products can be reformulated to avoid MAC operations entirely, and the softmax becomes obsolete. The paper methodically transitions from a standard ANN decoder to a fully spiking variant through 4 spike degrees, identifying that replacing multi-head attention causes the largest performance drop 25%, followed by the MLP 13% and classification head 4%. Strategic compensations. Additional decoder blocks, reduced attention heads, learnable left neuron thresholds. Bring the final spike decoder to 87.0% accuracy on character-level generation, about 11.4% below the ANN baseline. The payoff is a theoretical energy reduction of 87% to 93% compared to the non-spiking decoder block. The model operates on War and Peace at character level with 1.4 million parameters, and while it is a proof of concept rather than a production system, it establishes that a directly trained spiking GPT is architecturally viable. On the more immediately practical end of the performance spectrum, Grust released a query engine that makes Postgres 300x faster for analytical workloads. The optimization story is a clean tutorial in database internals. Standard Postgres uses the volcano model, where each plan node has a next method that returns 1 row at a time. Simple but slow. Batching processing 1,024 rows per call instead of 1 brought execution from 1.3 seconds to 480 ms. Operator fusion combining sequential scan and sum aggregation into a single node eliminated the copy overhead and matched a raw for loop at 358 ms. MZMD instructions processing 8 floats simultaneously using ARM Noon intrinsics pushed it to 135 ms. Nearly 10x faster than the original Volcano implementation. These optimizations, combined with JIT compilation teased for a follow-up post, account for roughly 10x of the total 300x improvement over Postgres. For developers who prefer running everything on their own hardware, 2 projects offer different on-ramps. URLM is an RLM-first backend for the Pi coding agent that proves a small local model. Ornith 1.035b, a Q, W, EN3.5 MOE with 256 experts and only 8 active per token. Can build a complete graph CRM in Go, file by file, compiling and self-correcting as it goes in 12.5 minutes at $0. The key insight is that RLM recursive language model, meaning write code, run it, read, result, fix, iterate, is a posture for quality work, not a trick for huge context. The tool includes sandbox isolation host, PYOD, IDE, /WASM or Docker, budget guardrails, wall clock, sub-LM call caps, USD ceiling, and an optional RLMG EPA optimizer that tunes the orchestration doctrine against scored examples. A home lab builder documented a 2-machine stack. A Debian server running OpenWebY behind Traffic, plus a gaming PC with an RTX 3090 handling Whisper STT, Piper TTS, and automatic 1111 image generation. That achieves a Gemini Flash level assistant experience, fully self-hosted, complete with RAG over 20 plus documents, and a tested backup/restore strategy.